Do complex legal issues hold you back? Let's get energized and bring clarity to your top legal questions. This is Law Talk with the Flock by Goosmann Law Firm.
Hello, I'm your host, Jeana Goosmann, CEO and Managing Partner of the Goosmann Law Firm, author and business leader, here to help navigate you in your way through the law, your business, and your life as a leader. Thank you for joining me, and today I have with me Anna Limoges. Hello. Anna is a trial attorney or a litigation attorney at the Goosmann Law Firm, and we're going to talk about what happens if you get sued or if you want to sue someone.
Hopefully that never has to happen, but we're here if that does.
Exactly. And I think I want to get this out of the way right away. For people that are not lawyers that are listening, what does litigation mean?
Litigation is more than just all the court stuff. Litigation is basically handling problems for people. A lot of times there's contract disputes and everything, and so what we do is we step in, we try to resolve that problem, both from the very beginning all the way to the very end, and possibly even after trial.
But isn't litigation too just kind of a fancy word for trial work?
Yes.
And I always thought that was, people call themselves a litigator, and I'm like, what did that mean before I went to law school?
Yes.
In the law, we have all these big fancy words, but essentially that's the process of taking a case, suing somebody, or being sued, and how you go through that whole process.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about, how do you get an attorney?
A lot of people, and what they should do is do some research. A lot of people get online. They do, Google up some stuff or whatever. Also, you can ask around. We represent a lot of businesses, so we can have a business call another business to see if they know of an attorney that had helped them with a certain situation. So word of mouth, by asking your friends and business owners that you know of, that helps out a lot too.
And there are a lot of different kinds of lawyers too, aren't there? Not every lawyer goes to court like you do they?
Absolutely not. There's estate and planning attorneys. There's transactional attorneys that do a lot. All they do is come up with contracts and handle those kinds of situations. There's a lot of different kinds of lawyers.
So you might need different kind of lawyer or different type of law firm depending on what you have that you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
And at the Goosmann Law Firm, we say we're full service for businesses and business leaders. We help people win disputes. And that's what we're talking about today.
Yes.
How can different disputes get resolved? Let's touch base on that, because there's lots of different methods, and you kind of already alluded to that, but let's dig into some of them.
So it kind of depends on what the problem is. Usually a dispute can start out, for example, if somebody owes the business money. We can start out by writing a demand letter to the company or person that owes the business money. And sometimes we do that twice. There's also a form of a demand letter where we attach an actual drafted complaint that we don't yet file with the court, but we're letting the other person know that we're pretty serious about collecting this debt on behalf of our client. So that's one method. Another method is just to work with the other side's attorney if they do have one, and try to come to a resolution that's, benefits both parties.
And then obviously you can file a lawsuit in court, and that's go through the court process, litigate the case, go to trial. And then there's alternative forms of dispute as well, ADR, and we've talked about those in another podcast, but mediations and arbitrations too, right?
Absolutely. So those are just basically different forms of going to court in a way, if we want to simplify it, but they're handled outside of court, and you have somebody like an arbitrator who is basically like a judge. You have somebody who's a mediator who goes between the two parties to try to come to that compromise, to try to end the dispute. So those are other forms.
I actually just got to become an arbitrator myself with the AAA last year. And
I heard
I've always
about
been
that.
the lawyer, and I'm kind of excited to now get to sit in the judge's chair, so to speak, and arbitrate the case. So it's a unique vantage point to sit from.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about how you prepare for court or how you prepare to handle a dispute. What are some of the steps that you go through, Anna?
So a lot of times what we do is we ask the client for every bit of information that they have.
And do they want to actually give us all that information?
Sometimes not. So sometimes they don't know exactly what to give. So we have to be able to ask them the correct questions and ask for the correct information. And sometimes they give us, one or two or little bits, and then we need to ask for more.
But in anything that they give their attorney at that point in time is confidential or privileged,
Absolutely.
right?
So there's a protection that attorney and clients have called the attorney and client privilege. So any communications are protected, any documents given to them, emails, anything that has to do with the work that the attorney is doing on behalf of the client is protected from being exposed.
And let's compare that to what is actual evidence in a case. So when we go through what we call the discovery process, where both sides exchange evidence, if there's documents or emails that have to do with the dispute, that stuff isn't protected, right?
No, it depends, and it depends if it's just between the client and the attorney, or if there's other people on that email. So if there's somebody outside of that relationship where that information has been shared, there is no protection there. And it has to be shared with the other side if it's relevant to the lawsuit.
Got it. So there's a big process that you go through in a case, the discovery process, where there's documents exchanged and depositions. Let's stop for a quick second. Tell everybody, what is a deposition?
So a deposition is you're under oath. There's a court reporter, possibly a videographer there, and the other side and possibly your own attorney is going to ask you questions that are relevant to the case, and maybe even walk you through the timeline and go through documents, and everything is transcribed. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking. It's not quite like being in court, but it's not just a normal conversation with anybody. There's evidence that is trying to be collected during that deposition. So
We do a lot of depositions right here at this table too, don't we?
We do.
Absolutely. So how do people end up becoming a witness in a case?
If you have personal knowledge of what happened in the case, you may be called as a witness. It may be a lot of knowledge that you have, or it may just be something that you witnessed one comment, or you witnessed one document, or you have knowledge of a certain process. So anybody that would be able to provide some relevant information to the case is a potential witness.
And people often don't want to be a witness, do they?
No, because it can be a little nerve-wracking. So,
And different cases have different number of witnesses. I've always kind of found that the bigger the case or the higher the dollar amount involved, the more witnesses there tend to be.
that's absolutely true. And if there is more dollar amount involved, you're talking about you have more pressure to prove that case. And the other side is going to try to disprove your case, if you're the plaintiff. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on how complex the case is, too. So,
About a decade ago, I had a case where there were over 300 plaintiffs. It was not a class action because they all had different claims arising out of the same incident. So we had to take over 300 depositions of those different plaintiffs in that one case.
I bet that took a little bit of time.
It did. It was about 6 months worth of time to take all those depositions. So
Did you have to travel for those as well?
I got very comfortable in one hotel.
Okay.
Yes, the front desk knew my name really well. So how long does this whole process take, Anna?
A lot of times there's a scheduling order put up by the court. And so you have deadlines and you have to get it done before a certain time. Those deadlines, if they have to be, can be extended, but you have to ask permission a lot of times or get, agree with the other party to do so. We're talking, it could go about 6 months, usual discovery process. I don't know what it was like with 300 plaintiffs. That might have involved a couple extensions, so I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, so I think most cases tend to take about 1.5 years on average, if it's a typical case. And then those larger cases that we referenced, I've had one case that was a 12-year matter. And but when there's tens and tens of millions of dollars at stake, they tend to have 40 different lawyers working on them, and that extends things out quite a bit. But
I suppose
most cases are around about a 1.5 years on average. average, or 2 years.
Yeah.
By the time you get through the whole process. It's not like in the movies, right? Or in TV
No,
where it just happens tomorrow.
absolutely not.
Although we'd be ready to go tomorrow, right?
We would be.
Yeah.
We would be.
Well, thank you, Anna, for sharing your insight with everyone today. Appreciate having you on the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Go make it worth it.
Thanks for joining us for Law Talk with the Flock by Goosmann Law Firm. We hope you feel energized and ready to soar past your goals. Become a Flock fan and subscribe to our podcast for weekly episodes. Learn more at goosmannlaw.com.